$5.4 million portfolio, 28 years old.
How does a Gen Z lad who grew up in central New South Wales as a bee farmer build a $5.4 million portfolio?
I just worked a lot. It just came through education, listening to you on the podcast. I was learning a lot from you and the guests.
And what makes his story even more incredible is the betrayal and heartache he had to get over before it even got started.
When I was 16, my mum was diagnosed with leukemia. What happened after that, we also got ripped off by my uncle. They took mum's house.
We're talking with mortgage broker and property investor Bill Childs as he opens up the raw details of his story and how he used them to fuel the fire to build something for himself.
But I did think gonna try and make something myself.
As well as opening up the highs and lows of him building his portfolio from $0 to $5.4 million as an investor still in their 20s.
Realised that it was a dud and I actually sold that. I went Tamworth, then I went Ipswich, Redcliffe, Ipswich again, then I actually bought in Coffs, and then I bought in Perth, and then I just done 2 in Ballarat end of last year.
And I wanted to unpack a little bit more detail about your story.
It's not as hard as you think it is
If you've been thinking it's impossible to even buy one property as a 20-something-year-old investor and want to know how someone who had a lot of the odds stacked against them has built a $5 million portfolio, you're going to enjoy this episode. My name's Todd Sloan. This is the Pizza and Property Podcast. And this episode is powered by Inside 2, InvestorKit, Property Strats, and the Property Developer Network. More about our amazing show sponsors in the show notes below. But right now, let's jump into this incredible story with Bill Childs.
Bill Childs, how you going, man?
Good, mate. How you going?
Mate, it's good to actually see you in person again. It's been a little while since you and I have actually hung out together. I think Sydney was last time.
Yeah, Sydney was last time, mate. It's good. Good to be in the studio, see what it's like.
Yeah, man.
Go down the stairway to heaven.
For anyone that doesn't get that, which is going to be everyone actually now that I say that out loud, the studio is underground, so it's controlled light, controlled sound. But when you've never been here before, it feels a little dodgy the first time you come down. But you took the punt, and it's going to be a good chat, man, because last time you and I spoke, we were talking about Victoria, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, Regional Vic.
That's right. You've since invested there yourself.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk more about your story. Now, you have been on the show once before years ago. I think you were 23 at that stage, from memory.
24 or 25, yeah.
Okay, 24, 25?
God, yeah. Must have been 3-4 years ago. Yeah.
Things have changed.
Yeah.
I'm sure the audience has probably changed as well. And I wanted to unpack a little bit more detail about your story because $5.4 million portfolio, 28 years old, you're a broker now. But and that's only been for the past few years now. Yep. Beforehand, you're a farmer. You still actually do a bit of the farming work, from what I understand. What kind of farmer? Because it's a bit different.
Yeah, it's not what everyone expects, mate. But beekeeper, commercial beekeeper. So we've got about 1,000 beehives.
I feel like that raises more questions than it answers.
Yep.
Because that's not common.
No, not at all.
No, but it's a pretty sweet job. Pardon the pun. Oh, sorry, I had to.
That's good, yeah. I should have saw it coming. Yeah, it's good. It's different. A lot of people, when I say, I'm a beekeeper, they would think that, they're like, oh, my pop's a beekeeper as well, but pop's got 3 or 4 hives in his backyard.
Yeah.
It's pretty different doing, having 1,000 and doing 80 or so tons of honey a year. It's, we're not selling your little jars at the market sort of thing.
Yeah. So I don't want to get us off track too much, but it's been the family business, or this is something you started personally, or?
Yeah, no. So Dad started it, and then I left school when I was 16. Didn't like school, and started working full time, and we grew the business from there, and then that's obviously started investing in property through working, saving up all my money, and working in the bees, buying properties when I could, and then obviously had 6 properties while still just doing the bees full time. And it got me interested into getting into the industry. You and I have known each other for a little while now. And a long time. Yeah. I quite often forget how much of an age difference there is between us. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons I actually wanted to ask you this, because it was a Buffett quote that I actually looked up before you and I started this, which was, the greatest investment a young person can make is in their own education, in their own mind, because money comes and goes, relationship comes and goes, but what you learn once stays with you forever. I read that and I thought of you because I just thought, you're 28, kicking goals, man. And I feel like
I wanted to get your thoughts on what resonates with you when you hear that. If you were to then think about what's the piece of knowledge from your younger years that you've learnt that if it was taken away, you wouldn't be where you are today?
I think knowledge is obviously there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of learning to do, get into property, business, all that sort of thing. But if it was one thing, it's probably not knowledge. I mean, obviously knowledge is part of it, but it's probably the drive to just get things done. So I guess work ethic more so than knowledge. Something that I've always done is try very hard. I'm pretty open to say this. I'm probably not the smartest, bloke in a lot of things, but I just try very hard until I understand them well. People think I know exactly what I'm doing when I talk about property. It's because I've studied it for thousands of hours. So it's not like I didn't pick it up straight away and know everything. And not that I know everything, but know everything that I know now within a short time frame or anything like that. Didn't come naturally. It was just through being interested and putting in the effort to learn it. And I think a lot of young people don't know what's possible because they don't put in the effort to learn about stuff. And then off the back of the effort is obviously the work ethic to make what you learn come to fruition.
Where'd it come from then, the work ethic? Mum and dad hard workers?
Yeah, dad, he's 70 almost, and he just works every day, all day. So I think it's in my DNA.
So you just grew up, and it was like that was the norm. That was basically the expectation that was set.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously it's very valuable because I've seen it. It was just normal to me. So it's not that normal for me to work, 80, 100 hours a week. It's just life.
So how many hours?
80, 100.
So you're proper every single day?
Yeah, well, I think 80 to 100 hours is only, 13, 14 hours a day, which is if you work every single day from basically when you wake up to when you go to sleep, that's doable.
Have you seen on TikTok, and I know you got quite a good TikTok account, you probably have, that dude, muscular dude.
Yeah, Hilmozy. Yeah.
No, there's this, he doesn't talk.
Okay.
He's like African looking dude, right? And people, he cuts clips from podcasts where people are like, I get up at 2 a.m. and he's just clipped that.
Yeah.
I only work 12 hours a day.
Well, no, I don't work from 2 a.m. But if you get up at 6 a.m. and you work pretty much the whole day until 6 p.m. or until 8 p.m., that's 12 or 14 hours. And that's not that crazy. You would do that. You're a very modest bloke, but you would do that a lot. So you would do 80, 100 hours a week a lot. And you don't think about it. You're not posting about it. It's life. It's what you do.
And I think for me, it's probably actually the exact same thing. I grew up with, dad wasn't at home. He was every other weekend dad.
Yeah.
But when I was there, though, he would drive cabs on the weekend. Yeah. So he would work his normal 40 hours a week. Then on a Friday, he'd come home, finish at 5 o'clock, get in the cab at 6 o'clock, and then drive it until 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And then he'd wake up on Saturday, mow the lawns, get back in a cab, drive into it. He did that for 18 years, 7 days straight. So to me, you're right. And it sounds like maybe you and I maybe there was a bit of dad time we missed out on, but a pretty good influence that we're both given because of it.
Taught you what to do to get things done, I guess.
This is one of the reasons I also wanted to unpack a few more things with you, man, because the first time we chatted, it was awesome. It's about property. Again, your story's sort of unfolded a lot more since then, but it was a little bit more about younger years that you and I only talked about quite recently. And I understand why, because it's quite a story. But can you tell me a little bit more about, and this is if you're still cool talking about it, a little bit more about the first time you really saw money troubles at home and kind of how they've really shaped you?
Yeah, so it wasn't so much money troubles at home, like between mum and dad and all that sort of thing, because I think if they were short of money or whatever, they would do everything to make sure we were fine and didn't know. So that was not an issue.
So it wasn't you growing up on the smell of an oily rag or anything?
No, that was completely fine. But when I was 16, which was, my mum was diagnosed with leukemia, which was terrible. And then when I was 17, she passed away, which, it sucks, as everyone that, has lost a loved one knows. But what happened after that was we also got heavily ripped off by my uncle for up to about $3 million in property. So
how?
He and my mum owned properties together.
Okay.
So there was a farm that was, back then, it was 400 acres. He said that he was going to develop it into house blocks, which he'd never done development before that I know of. So to go from not doing development to doing 400 acres into 500 square metre lots, it's not going to happen. Yeah. But there was that, and then there was a block of units, and then the one that really sucked was my mum's house as well, which we lost too. So what happened was he had borrowed, it was about $3 million on the farm at the time. So, up to 75, 80% LVR. I don't know how, with like private lenders and all that sort of thing. And he said that he spent it on consultants to develop this
the
block,
land.
but there was not a sod of dirt turned. So
did he actually spend, or is that just the story?
I thought when I was young, I thought he was rich. I always thought he was rich because he didn't work and he used to go fly everywhere, holidays, cars, boats, footy games, everything. And I thought it was because he's rich, but I think what it was, he was living off the equity from the farm that had been withdrawn that was supposedly getting used for consultants for development. But to spend $3 million on consultants, I mean, he probably could, but I don't think that's what happened.
And then a lot of consultancy fees.
Yeah, it was. And then units as well, they were leveraged right up again to 80%, something like that. And then the one that hurt obviously was Mum's house, because she, when she was dying, she was very upset about losing the farm because it was a family farm. And she said to me when she was in hospital that, very upset. And I said, I don't care. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about the farm. But she said that her house is for me and my sister. And again, I didn't really care about the house. It was not on my mind at the time. But
It's your mum?
Yeah, she passed away thinking that she'd unfortunately lost her father's farm. But she was happy that she gave my sister and me her house, which only had about 100K debt on it.
So it's like setting you up.
Yeah, it was probably worth about 500 grand at the time. So, it wasn't the 3 mil that we would have got if we got the farm and the units and the house and everything. But, if you're 18 and you get 200K or something like that, a house between you, that's a good start.
Yeah.
And she was satisfied that that would help us out in life. But unfortunately, that is not what happened because, as I told you, my uncle had taken a loan out on that at 37% interest on Mum's house.
How?
Mate, private lender, just a loan shark. The guy that he borrowed the money off was known as like a loan shark around town. 37%. What possesses you to do I know rates were more expensive then, or they're actually about the same then. This is, 10, 12 years ago. About the same back then as they are now. But just obviously all the big banks said no to him, no. All the second tier, third tier, fourth tier lenders said no. And there's loan sharks out there that'll lend you money if you need money at whatever price. So for some reason, he borrowed 37% interest. And the thing with that one that was the worst part about it was that he had used his house and Mum's house as collateral for that loan. And 5 days before she died, he signed his house over to his girlfriend. So it was just Mum's house left as collateral. So at 18, I'm in court with this angry property developer, sitting in a courtroom. We had a barrister that was on our side that was honestly useless. He was scared of the judge. I couldn't believe it. I was sitting there, I was 18, and the barrister that we hired for whatever it was, thousands of dollars a day, was in court sitting there, because the judges and stuff, they don't care that you're an 18, a 16-year-old that's mum's died and their uncles and our loan sharks, taking all their money. They don't care. They're just like, well, this is the rule. The document was signed, this and that. And
you're basically a kid. You're technically an adult, but
yeah. But I was sitting in court watching this barrister just melt under the judge. He was scared. And I was just thinking, surely this is not happening. But it was. And then they took Mum's house in that because she had signed the guarantor, the papers, to say that her house was up for that, and she 100% had no idea that that's what she signed. So obviously she signed it. She did sign it. It was her signature on the papers. But I
guess if you're in the state of mind that she would have been in.
Well, she was a very trusting person and not a very financial person ever. Yep. But if her brother was saying, trust me, sign this, then she would do it.
Brother, yeah.
Yeah, and we did have a reference that was we were going to use in court to fight that and prove that she didn't know what she was signing and stuff like that, but it didn't come through. The one of Mum's friends was going to go as a witness, but she unfortunately, got cold feet, too confronting, didn't want to sit in the chair and say that that's what happened. So they took Mum's house as well, obviously the farm, everything like that, and fought it in court for a year, not in court, but fought it back and forth with solicitors, then eventually in court for the best part of a year and a half, and no good. But the thing is, if my mum had lived, she might have been homeless because they still would have foreclosed on her home. The property developer wouldn't have cared. That's the worst part about it.
I don't know what to say. I'm not going to pretend it's the first time I've heard that story because it's not. And I still feel speechless hearing it, mate. Like I kind of want to give you a hug.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
Yeah. Mate, but the reason I wanted to talk with you about this, and because I still remember I was actually in Melbourne, I think in Chinatown, when you told me that. And I stopped what I was doing and just listened to you so intently when you were telling me that story. And the thing that I just kept thinking was, it's not about what happens to you, it's about what you make it mean. Because what's happened to you and your family, because it's not just you, it's also, your dad, your sister, it's like there's a lot of people involved here. Losing your mum at that age, or at any age, I can't even imagine what that feels. I haven't lost a parent. I'd imagine that is already devastating. To then keep going through that, it's about the fact that you didn't let this shape you in a negative way of like, fuck this guy, he's done this, and this is why I'm not where I want to be. I want to unpack more of that, Bill. What is it that actually gets you over something like that to keep actually doing what you do?
When Mum died, we actually got locked out of her house where we were living prior to that, and I ended up climbing through the toilet window, which was like this big, to get in and get some of my stuff because we got locked out of the house. And then we got sent a letter saying, if your stuff's not out by the 30th of the month, it'll be disposed of. You know, Mum's just died, get hit with that, court, all that stuff. You lose all the money. I think it just teaches you that life's not fair, but it is what it is. So you can make excuses and say that that's why you never do anything for the rest of your life. I guess you could say, oh, I got ripped off someone for $3 million when I was 18, 19, 20, whatever. I'd be rich if I got that, whatever. Or I guess it motivated me. Like it would have motivated me. It did. I know it did.
No one would have blamed you if you did do that though. Like if you had sat there and gone, this happened, I got ripped off, no one would be going, pick it up. People would be going, yeah, you did. Oh, that's terrible. I understand why you're not with it. Like, do you remember like a moment, or was there a conversation with someone or an influence with someone? Because surely you must have been furious in that time. I can't see you like getting out of that courtroom being like, I'm going to make something of myself, and like instantly turning it positive.
No, do you know what happened? When we were in court, and like I said, this barrister that we had, I just didn't think he was great. And we were going to fight this thing the whole way. That was the plan for a year, whatever. And then we got to court and the barrister said, I think we need to do a settlement and just give him the money. And we're like, what? Like, okay, why?
Why are we paying you as well?
And the thing was that they came to on that day was if, I don't understand why there'd be legalities to it. I'm sure there's a lawyer out there that can explain it better than me. But what happened was I could have fought it that day in court rather than do a settlement, which is what we did. And the settlement was give them everything and we get nothing. They got the house and then they sold it at auction, which we had to go to the auction. But in the contract, whatever, if we fought that and lost, the loan shark guy, could have bankrupted me any time for the next 10 years. I don't know the legalities for it, but that was in that courtroom, not in the courtroom, in the court, outside the courtroom before we went in. That was the risk that we ran if I fought it. And I thought about it, $200,000 each was a lot of money when I was 18, but I did think I'm going to try and make something myself in the next 10 years before getting, rather than getting $200,000. So that was part of the decision there, like that day.
Walk me through this, the fear of someone being able to essentially bankrupt you for something that was not even your decision when you're just starting as an 18-year-old, that lit a spark in you to be like, I'm never going to let this happen. I'm going to do something like...
Yeah. I think I saw that I would want to do more with my life in the next 10 years than get the $200,000 and run that risk.
Got it. Okay.
So I think it was if we fought it and lost.
Yep.
And so that's why we said, no, you can take the money.
Just in case, if you're a lawyer and you're listening to this, can you please help us out in the comments section?
Hit me up. I don't know. I don't care now. But
I'm interested, but yeah.
It was some legality that if we fought it and lost, he would be able to take me. I guess because maybe if we fought it and won or something like that. Yeah, something around those lines.
Yeah, because then you would have inherited the property, which then means you would have inherited maybe the debt.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about your first investment property then. So you've gone through a life already from the start, which is hard work is just how it works. You're a young lad that goes through a horrific experience, losing your mum financially, then having a trusted family member, essentially, I want to say bankrupt you, fleece you, if that's the word, fleece you. That lights a spark in you, leaving the courtroom that day after losing. And you then go, all right, I'm going to do something now. I'm going to change this. Talk to me about getting to your first investment property. What were you earning What were your savings like?
Yeah.
Where was it? What are the details?
I left school when I was 16 and I just worked a fair bit, a lot, all the time.
Yep.
And I lived at home, so I didn't have expenses. So I just saved all my money. And I've always been pretty good at budgeting. So I wasn't making much when I first left school. It would have been 40 grand a year, something like that. But I was also 16. So I had no expenses. So I was just saving everything I had. And then when I was 20, turning 21, bought my first property. And that was, again, it was my dad that said, save money. Should buy a property. Initially, I was thinking I'll buy one to live in. He said, buy one for investment. So that's what I did. He thought that if I bought one to live in, I might live in it with a partner. And then at 20, 21, fair call.
Right, very fair call. Just for anyone wondering, Dad give you any money?
No.
No? Okay, so this is all your savings, no guarantor?
I wish I'd done guarantor loans.
Okay.
I didn't. I should have.
Okay. Why?
Because I would have got ahead way quicker. When I see
more leverage.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And I know the whole thing of like, people say that your dad gave it to you. People say that anyway. They say that about me now.
I had someone say that about me the other day.
Yeah,
I was actually flattered.
So,
okay.
And when I talk to someone young now and they say, like, one of the first questions I say to them, if they got a deposit, then that's cool. We'll get you a property. But then I say, like, have you got access to a family guarantor? Because if you can, then do it. Like, if your parents are happy enough to help you because they've worked hard and they've got property and they're in a position to do it.
Who cares what everyone says?
Because people are going to say that you're a spoon-fed whatever,
If you are or you aren't. Yeah.
No matter what you do, if you end up successful, people will find some reason to say that, it was easy for you and not for them because they're doing nothing. I wish I'd done guarantor loans because I could have.
But you saved it all up yourself?
Yeah, I did. And then I used equity from there.
So whereabouts was the first purchase?
First one was in Tamworth.
Tamworth. Why Tamworth?
Couldn't afford where I lived in Coffs, and it was the wrong property, which I have spoke about before. But I looked at what I could buy in Coffs, and I could buy for about 400k. And in Coffs for 400k, I could get something, and I would have been better off. Looking back, I would have been better off doing that. But I would have got a 3-in-1, old, dilapidated, run down, not pretty. Whereas I took my money to Tamworth, which was a town that I was somewhat familiar with, about 4 hours away from where I lived in Coffs, and I could get, brand new. Oh, not brand new, but 2 years old, 4 and 2, way better than any house I'd ever lived in.
Yep.
Still way better than any house I've ever lived in.
And you're 18 at this stage?
20.
20, sorry.
20, yeah. So I'm looking there. I think I was 21 when it settled.
Got it.
And why wouldn't I buy that? That's going to go up in value like no tomorrow because it looks so good. But obviously that's not the case.
For anyone that's new at property investing right now, why is that not the case, Bill?
So that property was 400 grand or 390k, right? And I could have bought a block of land for 130 grand. So I paid, 70% or 60, 70% of the value that I paid was in the building, not the land. So now when I look at a property, I want 70, 80% of the value to be in the land, not the building. So that one I got wrong because I bought, it's like the off the plan units, mate. It's the same thing. I bought the shiny, pretty property thinking this is going to go up because it looks good, which is just completely rubbish. Like how many properties have you got that look good? Not many.
None.
Sorry,
Oh,
I mean
actually, no.
offensive. They look good
sorry.
now.
I was going to
They
say,
look
after
good
I
now,
renovated them.
But when
yes.
you bought them, they didn't look pretty. Like your last property, mate, I didn't look at that and go, "Oh, I want to live."
You should have smelt it
there.
Jeez.
I did through the video. So yeah, ever since completely changed the investment strategy into buying with all the value in the land rather than the building. But at 20, you don't know these things. So I sold that 3-4 years later.
Talk to me about the influence of actually having the guts to go, I've made a mistake here, I'm going to sell it. Was that an external influence from a person? Was that education? What was that?
Self-education, realised that it was a dud, and I sold it in 2021. Yeah, I sold it in 2021. I bought it in 2017 for $390. I sold it in 2021 for $415. I've seen people do worse.
I was going to say you didn't lose a lot, but yeah.
It was opportunity cost. So if I had bought that property in Coffs, that old dilapidated rundown thing, from 2017 to 2021, that would have went from 400 to probably 700 easy. Because Coffs boomed, whereas Tamworth didn't. And also I bought in a Greenfields estate where there was plenty of land to build the same sort of thing.
Yep.
So 2021, I looked at it and I thought it would pick up because we were starting to have the COVID boom and it'd be worth probably 550, 580 now. So it would have done its thing to a point over time, but it might be worth 600. But I looked at it and I thought, I think I'm better off flicking this. And I actually sold that and then I bought in Perth, and that's better.
Okay.
So that was going from 440 to 700.
Perth was the next one.
Yeah, Perth was next. So Perth wasn't the second. Perth would have been the fourth or fifth. But I went Tamworth, then I went Ipswich, then I went Redcliffe, then I went Ipswich again, and then I sold Tamworth, then I actually bought in Coffs, and then I bought in Perth, and then I bought in Perth again, and then I didn't buy for 2.5 years. I was tapped out.
Yep.
And then I just done 2 in Ballarat end of last year. It's a bit on, but yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to a young lad yesterday, actually no, a couple of days ago now. We're actually going to do an episode together. He's got 2 rentals. Luca, if you're listening to this, and we're looking forward to chatting with you, mate. 2 rentals. He's like 21 years old. It's like $3,400 a week rent.
Yeah.
It's insane.
3,400 at what?
Yeah.
2 rentals.
I'm not going to spoil the how.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Right. There's a lot more to this story. And the kid's a weapon. Right?
How many bunk beds in each room?
It's like Squid Games in there. No, I joke. But anyway,
Cool.
my point is, and I say kid, he's 21, he's a man, he's making moves, but when he was a kid, he was making moves already.
Yeah.
Like, and again, the whole reason I say this though is he was talking to me about how he's doing all this kind of stuff close to home. He's really not sure about buying borderless.
Yep.
It was like, I feel a bit safer in my own backyard. What was it that made you feel confident? For anyone that's listening to this now going like, you're talking about all these different states, all this everything, like how do you start that?
Budget restrained. So
Well, I get the budget restraint, but how'd you feel confident to do it?
Well, that was part of it. So I bought the first one in Tamworth.
Yeah.
That's fine. And then I go back a year later and I want to buy again. So before I said I pulled equity out from the second one on. The first one I saved, the second one I saved, but my deposit was tiny for the second one. It was like 30 grand. So I bought for 240K. And that was savings restricted, but also budget restricted. So at the time, I went to a broker and I could only borrow 220, 230 grand. It really limits your options. Definitely couldn't buy anything in Coffs for that price. Didn't want to buy in Tamworth again. And I was looking around random regional towns where I lived that I could get stuff in. Thankfully, I didn't. I then just started looking at, Brisbane, Sydney. Obviously, Sydney just, Western Sydney was gone.
Yep.
Was looking at Adelaide, would have done well. Was looking around Morphett Vale, Raynella, areas like that, which, again, probably a similar price point to Ipswich back then in the 2s. And I just looked at Ipswich and I didn't know much about it. I knew had a bit of a stigma, still does, but it was 40 minutes to the CBD of Brisbane and it had done nothing for, like 2009,
years,
it's 7, 8, 10 years, something like that. It had done less than 1% a year. And it was just crazy value. I didn't know a whole heap about property and data. And these days, everyone's looking at 1,000 different data points, but sometimes you just look at something and you go, that's good value for what it is. And I know I'm 21 years old, 22. If I buy this and hold it for the next 20 years, 40 minutes to CBD of a capital city, freestanding house, 600 square meters with a 6% yield on purchase, how wrong can I go?
So what would that be worth now?
580, 600. Yeah, 580, 600.
All right, so let's put that in perspective. What would you need to earn now to buy that now? Whether it's like yield on purchase now.
As an investment?
Yep.
If you were looking to buy that as an investment now, 75 grand, I reckon. 90% lend. If you're living at home and you're on 75 grand, you've got a 12% deposit plus your stamp duties, then you could get in with 75, 80K.
And that's spending, how much you say? 550?
600.
600.
Yeah, or 580, 600, I reckon. Yeah.
580, 600. Yeah. Okay. That's less than I thought. I was expecting you to say more like 100 and something. I'm just trying to put this in perspective because I always try and think of like what's someone going to comment, what kind of questions they're going to ask. And the comment that I'm seeing there is like, okay, well, like it was easier for you, like $240,000 properties don't exist. And it's a totally valid comment. They pretty much don't anymore. But if now the situation is like 10 years prior, that was a $100,000 property.
Exactly. Yeah,
and now those 100,000 don't exist. So and that's why I want to see how relative this really is. Can you do that on a modest income? And if you're doing it on 75K, it sounds like you kind of can. Yeah,
you can. You can build a portfolio still on, 75, 80K, start building it on that. But if you want to get anywhere, you need to be 100 plus. But it's going to be a lot slower if you're doing it on 100K. Like realistically, and as you know for this, but the best way if you want to build a portfolio, because we have people come to us every week saying, I want to buy 10 properties. I'm like, so do I. But it's easier said than done. The biggest thing you can do to increase your portfolio is to grow your income. That's the most
100%.
important thing. Put effort in, learn another skill, upskill, get another job, start a side business, like make more money. and you will buy more properties. You're chasing a higher yield, a 7% yield versus 6% doesn't do nothing for you. You need to move the needle in income.
The thing that I find crazy about this though as well is the pushback on that is like, yeah, well, I'd be rich too if I earned 200 grand a year or 300 grand a year or whatever. How many people, because you actually see the books of what people like spend their money on and what they earn. The amount of people, because I've talked to other brokers about this, and I remember the one that stood out to me the most was, I think he was an ENT or something or other, like some kind of very high up specialist surgeon, 800 grand a year.
Yeah.
Nothing. Couldn't get anything. Like it's just 800 grand came in, 800 grand went out.
I mean, I don't want to stereotype anyone, but FIFO workers, not the best with managing their money.
So a lot of missed opportunity?
A lot of missed opportunity. I get a lot of FIFO worker clients, and if you're a FIFO worker, hit up your broker and ask what you need to do to get into the market, because a lot of them making good money, but they just spend it on, they're flying to Bali every weekend, every second weekend, and living the life and stuff like that. And they're on 200, 250K. But they don't have any savings. And it's a thing that if you can save money when you're earning 60 grand and get your money skills right then, so, you know, buy your first property when you're on 75, 80 grand, something like that, and learn how to save. Once your income grows, don't expand your lifestyle greatly. Put it into, you know, savings and then into property. And it's only the first, like I said, I saved for the first 2. And then from there, it's all been, I've put some money in, but not much. It's been 90% equity since then.
Unfortunately, that's the start of my story. I went to the mines. You know this. I started earning money out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, I went from $200, and it still wasn't much money. Went from $200 a week to $200 a day. Like I didn't grow up dirt poor, but we didn't grow up with too much. And I remember thinking, I'll still just buy me a sack of goon and have fun with the lads. And, you know, because I was 19, I was silly.
Buying champagne.
Pretty much. It was like the rounds are on me, and I just started blowing it all. And like everyone wanted to hang around me because I was just wasting money left, right, and center. And I thought I was rich. Realistically, it was probably.
And your friends probably thought you were rich. It probably felt good.
Yeah,
it would have felt good.
I reckon it was probably 60, 70 grand a year. It wasn't even much money. But to me, I may as well have been a billionaire at the time.
60, 70 grand spending on partying.
That's a lot.
10, 15 years ago.
It's huge.
It would have got you a fair way.
But it didn't get me very far as far as the investing side. Like those were the skills that I didn't carry forward, and it wasn't until I woke up in my early 30s. So the fact that you've done this in your early 20s, you've gone, all right, I can see that I've got a little bit of money coming in, not heaps, but a little bit of money coming in, and I'm going to budget this well. So you're earning, what are you earning around that kind of 22, 23 years old?
70, 80 grand.
70,
80 grand, yeah.
Okay, so it's not pennies, but it's certainly not big dollars.
No, it was good for 21, 22-year-old back, you know, how long ago was that? 6 years ago.
Yeah. So it's not that long ago. You're not that old,
it's not that long ago. It's just about where you spend your money. You know, I got a car. I bought a car this year. That was the first car a personal car. Like we've got work utes and stuff like that are newer. But I bought my first car when I was 17 and drove it until 4 months ago, because I didn't need to buy something else. Like I'd prefer to put my money in property than have a new, I say it all the time, but a new Raptor. They're the ones that I give a bit to on TikTok. But
is that what you got?
No, I didn't get a Raptor. I just got a D-Max. And again, I bought something that was a few years old, depreciated. I wasn't going to buy new. I could, but in a position where I could, but I went, nah, I don't want to. I prefer to put that into property. And I needed a car because I'm doing a lot of driving now, going places. So yeah, it feels like too much sometimes, like, you know, spending money on stuff that's not a property, but yeah.
I had the exact same feeling buying our car. I think I've been talking to you about that.
What'd you buy?
An LDV.
Yeah.
Most people have never even heard of it.
Yeah, so you went budget too.
Yeah, of
but
course.
it was new. It was new, wasn't it?
Well, no. Second hand. I was trying to spend that much. And it's the exact same thing. I remember Bianca and I even talked about it. It was like a 2021 model. I think they're like 40 grand brand new. We got it for 20 grand. And it was like 2 years old, 3 years old, or whatever it was. And the only reason we actually got it is because when we had Fred, I needed something that, because I got a bit of an old back injury. I didn't want to bend in constantly to put him in out of the car. So I just, like, I can stand up. It's essentially like a Chinese made Land Cruiser. Like it's big, right?
Mate, you feel rich. I feel loaded in my $50,000 D-Max. Like,
I don't know if I do on the LDV.
I got a light that works. Windscreen wipers all work. Aircon works.
But the point is, you put it into something that actually does something for you, makes you happy.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, and if you keep growing that portfolio, I think this is the thing. And I'm sure one day you and I will probably rock up with a nice car and be able to justify it in a way that it's like, okay, no, I'm at that point. I still don't feel like I'm at that point.
I had to buy a Lambo. I don't know what that justification is going to be.
Well, maybe not a Lambo. Anyway.
Had to put pizza and property on it.
Matt, I want to ask then, what is it? Because wearing your broker hat, investor hat, and I'm going to say Gen Z hat, I think you just sneak into Gen Z. Like, what is it that people are getting wrong? Because I want to make a whole book on this, because I'm personally, and I said this as a 39. I had a birthday recently, a 39-year-old. I'm getting sick of the media narrative that's getting pushed onto younger people of basically you're screwed. There's nothing you can do about it. Like, I hate that there's nothing you can do about it.
You can't buy a home.
What are people missing what are the keys that you've just seemed to have picked up?
A big thing that they're missing is it's not as hard as you think it is if you put your mind to it and, have a crack for a year or a couple years or something like that. You can buy properties in Australia, your first home, for example, for $600,000. If you're earning under $125,000 and soon under Albo's scheme, it's uncapped price, income-wise, you can buy with a 5% deposit and the government will go guarantor. So even if you don't have a family guarantor, like, I wish I did that. I would have done that for sure if I knew about it and it was around when I bought my first one. So you can buy your first home with $30,000, which you can save up if you're on it, $80,000, $100,000, and especially if you're a couple, there's two of you, and you save $600 a week for a year between you, $300 each, then that's your first deposit and you're in the game. You don't need to save up. A lot of people will say to me, you got 8 properties. How do you get the deposits for them? And I'm just like, not saving them. You get the first one, and then you still want to have good money habits, but then the equity starts to grow. You just got to put in the work to get that first one. And I think people just think it's too far out of reach because they hear about the median house price in Sydney being $1.5 to $2 million. I couldn't do that when I was first home buyer, that's for sure. Most first home buyers can't, but they can buy a unit somewhere in Sydney still that's not a bad investment for $600,000 with a $30,000 deposit.
I still remember when you sent me a listing for Lakemba, and I wasn't actually aware of it at the time.
330?
I thought it was a misprint.
Yeah. 330. That was what, 2 years ago? 2.5 years ago?
Yep.
Yeah, they were crazy, And people say, Lakemba, I don't want to live there. Well, I didn't want to live in Ipswich when I bought there. Still goes up in value. You may buy it as your first home and live in it for 6 months or a year, whatever it is, to satisfy the scheme, and then you rent it out and go and rent back in the eastern suburbs or wherever it is that you want to live. Yeah,
and that's the thing. You don't have to live there.
No.
Like, I've got some property that we've got that, wouldn't be bad. And some that's like, no, I definitely would not want to live there. Yeah. But as an investment, it ticks the boxes. And just because I don't want to doesn't mean someone else doesn't want to.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably live in Lakemba if I needed to. It's fine, It's what it is. I'd live in Ipswich if I needed to. It's fine. But another thing is even ego comes into it. I'll tell people, you can't afford to buy in whatever, but you can buy in this suburb. And they're like, I don't want to own there. It's a shithole.
I've often thought that's why off the plan works so well.
Oh, yeah.
It's more so, it's like the brag to your friends tax that you pay.
100%.
Like, you show that glossy brochure, the views, look at this.
Inner city, Melbourne, Docklands.
I still remember when I was a sales agent selling a unit, a lovely couple, and they just fell for the off the plan pitch, and they bought it for, I think it was like 400 and something. Let's just say low 4s. We valued, appraised it sitting around the low 2s, and this was 10 years later. We got 250 for them, which they were stoked with, just to lose like 150 grand. And that was like a decade later.
And that would have been inner city Adelaide?
No, it was actually Port Adelaide.
Okay.
Actually, Port Adelaide. So whoever bought it got a bargain on what it was all built.
Yeah.
But it was just more the point that it looked nice. Like, it was a lovely place.
Yeah. Had a gym, had a concierge room.
I think it did.
All the stuff.
All that kind of stuff.
Sauna, spa, pool.
Do you still see that very often then from the broking side of things? Is this because you and I live in a bubble, and me especially? Yeah. My entire world is property investing and property investors. Yeah. You're connected to people a lot more. I sit in this dark room that you've just come in and
down the old stairway. Stairway to hell, maybe. Yeah.
Like, what is that narrative? Is this something that people still really do feel that it's got to look good?
I mean, to be honest, most of our leads, 95% of our leads are from online, TikTok and Instagram.
Okay.
So I think the average bloke and woman that I speak to are more educated than your normal person out on the street buying an investment property, because generally what happens is they will find us online, follow for 3-4 months, and then inquire.
Yep.
So by the time they've inquired, they're like, mate, yeah, I've seen that video you posted about that off the plan unit. I've seen that one you posted about that regional house that's done really well or whatever. I want something like that.
Yep.
You know? So I think at the moment, like you're saying, your world's a bubble. My world's sort of a bubble too, because the people are actually educated when they come to us now, which is good. It's good for
really
business. It makes things easy.
So, but because you're not XYZ home loans down the road.
That's right.
Got it. Okay.
I think the general broker that's, you know, yeah, like you say, Aussie Home Loans or Mortgage Choice, whatever franchise that you walk into and say, I want to buy an investment, probably would see a lot more average investments come through.
I know you said that the spark was really lit when you were 18.
Yeah.
You went through everything.
Yeah.
You settled. When did you realize it could actually be something bigger? Because even just to chats going back, whatever it is, 4 years, 5 years ago when you and I first met, both had a lot more modest portfolios.
And a more modest podcast.
Yeah. Well, the podcast is the same, just a few more people listen now.
Exactly.
Yeah. But my question is, like, when did it actually click for you that you were like, this could actually be something big?
As in the property investing or business?
No, the property investing, the portfolio, because when you've got one,
Yeah.
the thought of like 4, 5, 6, 7, it's huge.
Yeah, I thought that I'd get my first one and then I'd pay it off and I'd own it outright. And I thought when I got the first one, I thought I'm going to have a goal to own that property outright by 25. And that wouldn't have been bad. That would have done all right, you know. 25 would have had a property that was worth, you know, 500K, something like that.
Pretty good.
50, be all right at 25. But then it just came through education, mate. I read Steve McKnight, 0 to 130 properties in 3.5 years, you know, stuff like that. Every property investment book, Margaret Lomas, Jan Summers, all that sort of thing, and then started listening to podcasts. And that's where I got the, I guess, inspiration to do more and realize that it was possible.
When you found it was a little bit more normalized, you found other people that had done it.
Yeah.
So a little bit of the why can't I?
And that and the fact that I realised through the capital growth when I started buying the right properties that this makes me a lot more money than I make working very, very hard every day, and I don't have to do anything. You know, I buy it. It's hard on the way in. On the cash flow for the first couple of years, you're negative. But, you know, if you got a few $1 million worth of property, it's, you know, I got 5.4 mil, something like that. If it does 10% on a good year, it's hard to earn that.
So why keep going?
Why keep buying more? I don't know if I'm buying more right now because it's at a point where I don't necessarily need to. If I hold what I've got now for the next 10 years and that doubles to, you know, 10 mil, sell down half, you know, I'd look to go commercial at some point, and, you know, maybe I have $5 or so $1 million worth of cash after I sell down, you know, pay off some debt along the way, and then go and get a commercial with a net 6 or a net 7, you're getting a 350K passive income. So I don't know if I need to buy more. I probably will, but yeah, it's...
Why will you then?
Because it's fun. That's a Porgsy won't like that one on TikTok, mate. It's, I don't know, it's like business. It's not, I love business now, and we're doing very well as a business and expanding and growing very fast, but it's not been for the money so much. It's because it's fun. I like it. So, you know, I like helping people do the same as what I've done, and through that, yes, I make money, which will, in turn, I will buy more properties from, most likely, but it's not the reason. Money's not the driver. It's just doing stuff.
I mean, more so the why keep working hard as well.
Yeah.
Like, because it is working hard. Like, you could be sitting on a beach. Like, are you just like, I'd go mad after a couple of hours on the beach, or?
Yeah, I can't really sit still very well. I said it to you earlier today, but in the last 10 years, I haven't watched a movie, like barely watched a movie.
Yeah,
ever.
I couldn't believe
People
that.
reference scenes in movies, like, you do it to me. This at the end of this. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah, I referenced 8 Mile. I was like, it was something about rabbiting it, and he was like, what's 8 Mile? Like, no, how far away is that?
There's 1 mile here, isn't there, or something? That's what I was thinking, yeah.
I don't know.
No, there's Mile End in Adelaide. Mile End, isn't there?
Mile End, yeah.
That's what I was thinking of when you said 8 mile. I was thinking,
no, that's where we live. We'll go there later. But anyway, my question, I guess, is that it almost comes down to that thing. And I think I've said this on the podcast before. One day it's actually this anecdote that I know I'm going to butcher, but the sentiment would be there. So just roll with it. There's these 2 guys, and they're at this like fancy, let's say, New York penthouse party. Okay, and it's like Jordan Belford's party, I think. And this one guy is saying to the other, and he's like, "Oh, cool! Like Jordan just made more more in one day than you would have made in your entire life. And the guy's like, yeah, but I got one thing that he doesn't and he'll never have.
He's satisfied or something?
Yeah, enough.
Enough, yeah.
And it does make me think sometimes, when is that? What does enough look like? What is the point of, like, because if we're always just chasing, are we unhappy then when we stop chasing? Where is a goal where you actually get to it and you're like, I'm good now?
I think that would be more of a question that's answerable if it was doing this for a monetary figure, right? So if I was working, I work a lot, but I work because I like it. So if I was working to get to, say, a portfolio value of $10 million and then stop because I'm going to reach X amount of passive income or whatever that is, something like that, then that would be something that I could work towards and then get there and stop. But it's not a goal that I have. I don't have that goal because I like doing the activity. It's like Forrest Gump, mate. That's a movie that I've seen.
Like
he didn't run 5Ks.
So you have
he just
seen a
kept
movie.
running. I watched it at school. Some of it runs everywhere. So yeah, I don't think there's no end in sight. I mean, I'm 28. What do I do? If I looked at my portfolio really closely and said, I'm going to hold this for another 3-5 years or something like that, and then sell down, have, $3-4 million worth of equity, pay my taxes, have $3 million, and then put that in commercial, 7% net yield, 210 grand passive income, and retire at what? 33, 34. What do I do? I'm like, all right, I'm bored. I'm going to go and write some home loans or buy some houses. So I may as well just keep doing it.
My first thought is, if it wasn't about the money, then why charge people? Why do it? Like, why not do everything for free? But then I guess the answer to that is you need money to play the game because houses aren't free. And if you enjoy doing the stuff with the houses, like, do you know what I mean?
You can't pay staff's wages on love, mate.
Yeah. No. And if you try and pay people in hugs, you get harassment charges.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I'm asking for a friend.
So obviously I need money to live and I like making money. You're the same. It's not the main driver at all.
No. I asked this question because I feel like this is something, again, that I've seen a lot more in the comment section. I'm spending too much time in the comment section at the moment. And sometimes it's real negative. Sometimes it's amazing and filled with like a lot of really cool people. But I feel like that's actually something that I'm seeing more and more of is like, what's kind of the point? You're missing out on so much life. You're doing it. But for you, but tying this all back to, you've started with an amazing work ethic, something that's really been instilled from the parents, especially your dad by the sounds of things. Yep. You've gone through something that is just a horrific experience on so many different levels. You've then turned that into the fire that was lit to go, I'm going to do something. I'm going to build something for myself. And then you just kept going. You made mistakes. You've now built a successful business. You have built a very successful portfolio. At 28 years old, 5.4 million, there's people that will never build anything near that, even in their 60s and 70s. And as far as the end goal, the why, the push, it's like there is no, I'm going for this. It's almost like you're on the treadmill, but you're like, I just love treadmills. Like, this is just actually what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people would look at me and, again, say that I'm missing out. But I do stuff. I'm going to Europe in 2 weeks. But it's because people say, you work too much or you need to work less. That's because they don't like their job. I don't have that feeling. So if money wasn't a thing, what would I do? Probably pretty similar to this. I've heard other people say that, but it's not like I need to work to get to a certain monetary figure so then I can retire and sit on a beach and then I'll be happy because I'm happy now and I just like working. It's not a problem to me. It's not a drag. It's fun. Sometimes it's tiring and stressful. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. Some people, it will make sense to some people because I know it does. I have mates that are the same, that they just work all the time. And then I got mates that, hate their job and just want to knock off and sit on the couch and relax. That's fine. It's just people are different.
If you enjoy your job, that whole saying, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah, I definitely work. I feel like I work. There's days when you work, but the result's good.
Yeah, but it's totally different. And it's even just the people you hang around. I remember when I had a job that I didn't like. It was actually the mines. And there was one crew. I didn't like the job. But the boys that I worked with were just amazing. Then I worked with a different crew. And they were, let's just say, the opposite of amazing.
Yes.
And it made everything so much harder. So if you're surrounded by a whole bunch of people that maybe aren't the best, circumstances, work conditions, whatever, I get it. But then if you turn all that around, you're surrounded by good people, you're solving problems that interest you. Ray Dalio actually puts it perfectly. Meaningful relationships and meaningful struggles. If you've got those two things, that's when it's work, like you're saying, but it actually has a purpose that doesn't drain you.
surrounding yourself with good people is the biggest thing, because now all the staff in the business are, my best mates as well. So why would I not want to work? And they all want to work as well. That's the thing. I see emails coming through. Thais sends emails at 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And clients probably think that, it's me saying work, but it's not. It's just she likes her job, likes what she's doing, and sitting there thinking, oh, what can I do? 10 o'clock at night, can't sleep, whatever, I'll do some work, because it's, I don't know, we enjoy it. There's probably some better philosophical answer that I could think about and give, but that is what it is.
I know we're getting to the pointy end of things now, but I wanted to ask you, because you're touching on this, and I feel like it makes me think of, there's a book about like the 5 people that you surround yourself with, like you are basically the average of them.
Yep.
And I wanted to, I guess, ask if you had any thoughts on this, if someone's now thinking about their 5 closest friends, guys, girls, whatever. Do you have just amazing influences and you kind of got a bit lucky with that? Did you have to like cull friends, or like have you gone out of your way to surround yourself with like-minded people?
I don't think I've culled friends, but most of my friends are, good. They're doing stuff with their life. They're having a go. They've got businesses. They're buying properties, stuff like that. So I don't know if I've culled friends, but probably more so what
Culled was probably a harsh term.
Well, it's not. It's not, because people do it.
Yeah.
But it's probably more so you attract people that are like you. That's probably more the way to put it. And I mean, that 5 people closest to you, I get that point. That's what, you hear that all the time. You're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
You disagree?
Well, these days you can have virtual mentors. You can listen to podcasts from Alex Hormozy. I listen to him all the time. He's good. I learn a lot from him, but definitely don't know him. He wouldn't know I exist. You can have a big influence. A few years ago, listening to you on the podcast, I knew you a little bit, but I was learning a lot from you and the guests and everything like that were on here, and I didn't know them. It was just through spending time listening to what they say, listening to books about authors and stuff like that. Like, you can learn from people that don't have to be in your immediate circle these days. I think that's more true going back before we had access to all these, if you wanted to learn something from the founder of some big company 30 years ago, good luck. They might write a book or release an annual report or something like that you can read, but now you can go and listen to 10 podcasts on them. You want to listen to Elon Musk, go on Joe Rogan, 3-4 hours of it, It's easy to access information and learn from people, even if you don't have direct access to them.
That seems to be the thing now. There's definitely things that are harder in property investing, absolutely. But that's definitely one of the things that is so much easier, that just didn't exist, like you said, 20, 30 years ago.
Access to information,
100%. Yeah. Mate, I feel like that's almost the action step. But just in case if I've got this wrong, if someone has listened to your story, they're 20, 30, whatever, and they're like, this guy's done it. I want to do this. I've had some super hard struggles that I've had to get through. Like, there is someone right now that's sitting on a plane, a car, a train, whatever, and this has really spoken to them. Mm-hmm. There's a few people that have probably turned off and they're not hearing about this bit, so that doesn't matter. They're gone. What's the action step for those people, mate, that you're like, you can do this? Like, it was hard, but it is still possible to build something. What can they pull out the headphones and do straight away to walk down that path?
Focus, work hard, and do it consistently for years, and things will happen. I don't know. It doesn't have to be that complicated. I mean, it is hard to buy 5, 6, 7, 8 properties, but if you put effort into it every day for the next 4, 5, it's taken me, 8 years to do, and I've put a lot of effort into it every day, you can do it too. It's not just going to happen. You're not going to wake up and it's going to happen to you. You got to put in the effort to make it work, and the effort into learning about it. Surround yourself with good people, brokers, accountants, buyers agents, mentors, stuff like that too.
Makes me think of this little cartoon once. It was just 2 stick people. One of them's holding a jar and it says happiness on the label. And the other one's like, wow, I've been looking everywhere for that. Where did you find it? He's like, I made it myself.
That's good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Mate, arguably, I've got to the most important question of all, and I need to ask, and I've asked you this once more, and honestly, I forget what your answer was.
Yeah.
Bill Childs, what is your favourite pizza?
It's going to be the same, but no, you don't have to be fancy. Just get a double bacon cheeseburger, I think it is, from Domino's.
Domino's?
Domino's.
Okay.
They got the white sauce on top, whatever that is. And
whatever that is.
Mate, it's the go. It's good. You can't go wrong. I don't know how much they are. What, $12, $13? Inflation. They used to be $5 years ago, but not anymore.
Yeah, we've actually gone off Domino's recently.
Yeah.
We're around the corner at Oasis. Because
Okay.
you start adding a few add-ons onto Domino's now. It's not cheap anymore.
Yeah, righto. Yeah.
It's like the Oasis pizza's a bit better.
Yeah, there's boutique pizzas and stuff like that around that probably beat it, but consistency, it's always there.
It's the value.
Go to it. Yeah.
Love it. So bacon cheeseburger.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, double
Okay.
bacon, beef and bacon. I don't know, man. It's on the menu.
Yeah, you haven't eaten in a while, have you?
No.
You're looking pretty shredded,
No.
man. I don't think you're eating much
I
pizza.
haven't ate it for a while. But if I did, that's what I get.
Matt, are there any final words of wisdom or anything you'd like to leave with everyone today, Bill?
Mate, like we said before, the key to getting things done is to work hard. Work like a dog. That's not great. You don't want to kill yourself, but
work
it
is
is
something
what it
you
is.
enjoy or something that has meaning for you.
Oh yeah, but you're not always going to love it. You won't always love it. You won't love it. I haven't loved every single minute of the last 2 years working all the times when it's really, really hard. But you got to keep going, and it will get better, and you'll achieve things. And if you're working really, really hard and you're not loving it and stuff like that, but you're getting somewhere because you're buying your first or your second or your fourth and fifth property, that's what makes the tough hours work it, whether you're FIFO, whether you're a shift worker, a nurse doing your double shifts, that sort of thing. Hard, very hard at the time, but if it's getting you your fourth, fifth property, you're going to thank yourself down the line.
Something Bianca always says, whenever we get the answer to a question that we don't like, and usually it's doing something that we don't want to do, the only way to get through it is to get through it.
Yeah.
And it's just keep going.
Yeah.
And I think as much as that might not be advice that some of us want to hear, it's the right advice that actually gets you where you want to go.
If you're going through hell, don't stop. Why would you stop in there?
Bill Childs, thank you so much for your time, mate. It is always a pleasure, and I reckon it's time you and I... Actually, do you want to go to the gym first, and then we'll grab some dinner?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it, man. All right. Thanks
Sounds
again.
good. Too easy, mate. I liked it. Have a good one.